Hello, folks, and welcome to the Friend or Foe Lounge. I am your friendly neighborhood shotcaster, Sharogen, and today's episode is going to be a little bit of the Art of War Supremacy edition of the lounge, as we have got a couple of interesting guests joining us today. So if folks want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm AW Guilty, and like Sharogen said, it is going to be Art of War Supremacy because he knows who's going to be in the winner's interview next game.
And I'm Ahmed. And yeah, I think that's pretty safe to say. Finals pretty much a lock. Maybe not gonna say that, but
Yeah, so I guess I'm gonna have to be playing devil's advocate, rooting for the Burbs because they are not here to talk about themselves. But you know what? I just want to hop into this. Let's talk about last week's game because I want to talk about the INT game, but I want to save that because that was so exciting and so what I did not expect. So just give me a quick rundown of your game versus RLS. I understand you are basically in undefeated versus them during the regular season this year, but there was that one game that I guess scheduling conflicts just resulted in that one loss that kind of currently blemishes your record versus them. So
For RLS, yes, the dreaded pause mishap was the reason for our one loss. Besides that, yes, I think are 4-0 on completed games with them. I agree that the game did not go, I think, as we quite expected. I think our top overperformed, and then I know mid's here, but I think our bot lane underperformed in that series, but the balance did work out in our favor.
oh yeah, I could agree with all of that. Sorry about that. I think top did really good, and yeah, I think we maybe could have done better bot. I think some games were better than others, but yeah, it sort of balanced out, I suppose.
because I'm trying to remember exactly like how things went during that game. I know that the first, like, it was basically, and you guys seem to control the tempo across the board. So was there kind of any particular plan that you had going in? Because I understand the whole overperform sort of, like, was there anything specific y'all expected going in? Because they seem to have a pretty darn strong respect for your champion. So that was kind of like one of the things that was interesting to see.
I'd say that going in, we after our first game, it took them a while to change their bans. We nearly ran our first three picks on game one and game two ended up being the exact same, and they tried to transition into something that they might be able to deal with it. It didn't really pan out, and so then they had to change up that ban system. I think that their focus wasn't where they normally play. I'm not sure if things were going on their side, maybe IRL stuff that were kind of throwing them off.
Oh, go ahead, sorry. Okay, nice. Yeah, I mean, I feel like the preparation was there, but I also agree, like, it felt like they were not really necessarily playing towards their strengths the entire time. Also, I think, I'm not sure if it was entirely intentional, like, all of the time, but I think our drafts were kind of nice. Like, we had especially, like, for example, the first game, I feel like playing a lot of champions would have been really hard for me, but us getting Mikaisa was really nice because I pretty much didn't even have to play the game. I just got to ult in when we got to UCC and stuff, which helped me avoid just having to deal with like the front to back team fight that those guys had.
Yeah, and it was really interesting just how much effectiveness in that first game. Y'all picked Akshan, which is a champion we don't see a whole lot of. It's kind of one of those champs that I feel like is picked more often in solo queue as kind of like an ego pick. Is what I've noticed for some players, but y'all seem to use it like to great effectiveness. Guilty, you were having some really fantastic roams. Was that kind of one of those things where you're like as a team comp you wanted Akshan in there? Because this whole first draft was definitely a very dive heavy draft.
So inside ADB, it's kind of a joke that my Akshan is my most played ranked game champion. It has a 40% win rate. I generally perform KDA wise, but I just can't seem to carry it in more solo queue because people don't really work with kind of his invisibility roams. But in this team setting, it really helped getting to work with a mid in diving the bot or the back lines together. And it really just made the champion feel a whole lot more than just that solo queue champion. But I completely understand people feeling like it's
that's exactly what I mean by like an ego pick, just because of the fact that it's not a bad choice if you have people who can follow up, but if you don't have that follow up and get those assists on your allies or the kills to revive them, it just kind of becomes a little bit of an issue. But y'all cracked that game open fairly quickly. I think it was like a sub 30-minute game, so That first one went really, really well, and then going into that second one, I know that they basically let you just run the exact same draft, and that was really kind of interesting.
Yeah, going in, we were pretty prepared for every champion they picked. They didn't really pick anything that was, even in game 3 when that back against the wall feeling, there wasn't any picks that we didn't see coming. There wasn't like a pocket pick that I know some of my team may have thought the Irelia was, but since I am on SLR with Anti, I do know that he likes playing Irelia, and so that's something that me and Trollsing had talked about, that if we leave it open, it's gonna get picked, and I wanted him to practice on things that would be able to kind of work against it, and it seemed to work out well. Yes, Oriri's ping spiked, I think like 300, and he reset his computer, or reset his game.
No, I'd say the same. I think it was like a little surprising that they didn't pull out anything crazy, but also not really. I mean, I guess like you only really pull out something like crazy if you think it'll actually work. You don't pull it out just to int the last game. So, I mean, maybe they just didn't have something where they're like, okay, we picked this now and like maybe we get a win. So maybe that's the reasoning. I could see it.
Maybe entirely. Either way, hopping now into the next set of games of the week that I think was kind of the absolute surprise of the season. Totally not what we expected. All right, so back to the recording. Let's see, we were about to talk about INT versus AS, and phrase what I was. Let's see. Okay. So hopping over to the other set of matches for those semifinals, the Burbs versus in the trees. That was a match that I expected it to be a 3-0. I did not expect it to be a 3-0 in AS favor, and I was very pleasantly surprised.
I would say that from me watching it was how they were able to work well together and shutting off Bo and having a lot of jungle pressure into INT's jungle was something that I wish that we had been able to get together and pull off if we did end up going with against INT in the finals. That is something that we were trying to practice with, but all of that practice is going out the window now, since we're not going to be seeing INT. Instead, we're going to be going against the Birds here, which I think our whole team's going to feel a lot more comfortable and confident going into.
Yeah, pretty much. I agree. And so for this series, actually, because I was not available at the time, I didn't watch it. I've heard a lot about it, and it's really because I've watched like a lot of the games from INT earlier in the season with Bo and stuff, when they were really like insane and everyone had them at like first pretty much. And it's really surprising that AAA was able to, not like against AAA, but just with how effective they've been throughout the whole season. I think they've been fairly consistently at the top, and like Bo's been pretty good throughout the whole time. So the fact that they were able to just like shut it down almost out of nowhere, like I feel like we hadn't really seen them execute like this before, right? From the sounds of it, I haven't seen anything like that from them, at least. And yeah, I don't know what sort of prep they were doing for INT, but I mean, clearly paid off. So
yeah, did you, so you didn't catch the rare Atom near first blood in that first
wait
game.
What?
so rare Atom basically in the very beginning of the match walked right up to, I think it's Pixel Brush on the bot side river. You see Rakan doing the spam, like he knows they're there, he knows they're waiting, and just gets caught by a hook, and then 5 men jump on him. It cost him his flash and the Rakan W to get out. It was pretty funny. Yeah. I laughed pretty hard at that. But that was kind of just that was like, when that happens at the beginning of the game, you kind of like go, okay, this is the momentum of the game. INT is going to control everything. As just kind of in it for the funsies.
Wow. That's so funny.
So what did y'all think of INT's draft at first game? Guilty, because I was not a fan of the Azir pick.
I'm never a fan of Azir picks. They're really annoying to deal with in lane, just because of the obnoxious poke they have, and the escapability that they have allows them to play aggressive but also safe, and then also shove you into the tower if you get too close. But I find that Azir, once they get away from that comfort, they become really dangerous if they get caught, because they can die so fast. If the enemy team does catch one, your damage potential will just get so knocked away that there's not really a way to recover it. Whereas for Oz team, right, they had Kai'Sa, they had GP, they had Vex. lots of ways to get in there and to just burst.
Personally, I was actually a pretty big fan of the Azir, actually. I think Azir is good almost, I don't want to say every game. Like, of course, there's some games where his team just won't want to do what he wants to do. But I think Azir is just such like a versatile champion. He has like a lot of the stuff you're going to want. Like in lane, he has the poke, he has a solid lane phase, he has good scaling, a big team fight ult. Even outside of lane, he outranges like more champions than not. But I actually, believe it or not, I would have liked, I think the way this draft maybe goes better for INT is if they don't have Bo on Sejuani. I think INT has like a lot of good players, and also of course their gameplay like sort of revolves around their jungler, right? So I feel like if they have him on like a stronger pick and they just sort of do like the LCK draft, so to speak, just everyone's like carrying, and pretty much like you just hope at least, because if you have 5 like damage dealers, like one of them's gonna get the 5-man like crazy, you know, that's like the idea at least. And I think that would have suited INT better. I think the Sejuani did them a disservice, actually.
Yeah, it is kind of like I feel like it's a comfort pick, and so that's the main reason why it was chosen.
I'm actually a bit surprised that almost, and this is maybe a hot take, maybe not, maybe it's like a lukewarm take. I think Vex is almost never worth picking, even in games where she's good. I think unless the game is literally perfect, like you have to pick Vex, you're kind of griefing if you go it. I think Vex used to be really good, and after durability, the champ just got like a lot worse. But also on the other side, I just noticed Vayne doesn't have cleanse, and I wonder, I mean, that probably doesn't make a difference, but I wonder if there's like a fight later in the game where maybe that comes back to bite, because you look at like Vex against a short range ADC that's kind of cleanse already. Kaisa has like exhaust that's cleansable, Rakan has ignite that's cleansable. Cleanse value is really high here. I'm kind of surprised they went with exhaust.
Alrighty then. Well, oh, hold on just a second, folks. Looks like we'll be able to get Jafy in here. Give me just a second. And Jafy, are you there?
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So we have now got Team as Jafy and from TDE as well. So we're gonna have a little bit of a mythic conversation here in a little bit, which I'm really excited about. It is no longer Art of War Supremacy on the lounge.
Just supremacy on the Rift, baby.
Well, okay, so Jaffe, just so you know, we catch you up real quick. We just finished talking about the RLS versus AWE matchup the other day. It was a pretty interesting 3-0. Do you have any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think that showcased how strong AW is, and you know, it just seems like they're getting stronger. I was actually scared of playing against RLS if we got to that point, but now they're knocked out. So pretty exciting finals.
Very much so. Yeah, no, I think that match went pretty well. The one that we're talking about right now is we are talking about the INT versus AA matchup, and I knew y'all were going to take at least one game off of them. I did not expect you to 3-0 them.
I think what we were looking for was just playing together, because we know that Wash was stronger individually, but INT is really good as a team. So we were just planning on, if we play together, if we do what we do best in lane and individually, then we should win. So that was kind of our plan. And the first game really, I think, our best showcase, because we got what we wanted and we kind of did what we wanted to do.
Okay. Yeah, no, like y'all definitely had total control over that first game. Like I just think we're talking a little bit about the picks there. But kind of what was it in the second game? I think they took the Udyr, but they kept the Azir. Was that Azir something that you expected Katarina to have to face against multiple times?
Well, he was very comfortable with Vex against Azir after that first game. So after they got Azir again, we were kind of surprised that you know, they were gonna play the same matchup, because he kind of Katarina like did really well. So I mean, we were just surprised that INT wanted to do the same matchup again.
It was a little bit of a bad idea. So without leaking strats, now that I've got the 2 grand finalists here, I know it's 2v1 right now, but Jaffe, I think being a top laner, you're used to that. What kind of like strategies or stuff do you think the other team needs to make sure that they don't screw up on? I'm trying to think of how to phrase this without giving anything away, because you know where I'm going with this, right?
I feel like the best thing I can say is like they can't worry about me, because I'm gonna do what I do, you know? Like if I'm gonna get a good game in, then it's gonna happen. They can't really like ban me out or shut me down, because like when I played against INT, they camped top lane when I was gangplank, you know? Like I was 0-2, but then at the end of the game, I still did what I did. I was most damage, most gold. You know, like they can't shut me down. Is what I'm trying to say.
For us, I would say pretty similar. I think our top laner kind of does whatever the heck he wants, and I don't think there's been a team yet that has figured out what to do with that. Seems to really just take over top lane on his own, and we saw what happened with Anti. So I definitely hope the best for Jaffe. I would like him. I would like top lane to have to struggle at least a little bit.
Okay, so while I have everybody here, we have got a interesting opportunity where you guys can go ahead and get your trash talk out now. You can kind of throw whatever shade you want. Just got to make sure you back it up on the Rift, because obviously we're not that kind of a, you know, it's not all talk. You got to be able to walk the walk. So I'm just gonna throw it over to Jaffe. I'll let you have control over this. What's the order you want this trash talk to go in? Because you're the one who's outnumbered right now.
I guess I'll go first because you know.
Which
Ah, this is true. Which
Guilty, you go first. I'll go second.
Really, it's just going to come down to, if you don't want to get flamed by trash in the post-game interview, you better not let us win, because it's the last game. So even if he gets banned from all these guys, it's too late, because there's no more games.
That's an ominous warning.
Yeah, letting trash onto a mic is always terrifying, apparently.
Yeah, it's very scary actually. Yeah, I don't know, for me, it's not like so much trash talk, but I'm kind of a coin flipper, so I think this series I'll be able to play really well. A little less like risky plays maybe. Bots winning all series. I think our top lane's pretty good. I mean, like, Guilty pretty much never loses lane, it feels like, in these games, so feels pretty good to be us right now, I guess.
I guess the one thing I could say is, like, last game we played against each other, like we pretty much trolled the draft, the game. Like, we didn't really take that game seriously because because of how seeding was going to work, we kind of wanted you guys to win so that we could, you know, come up this far. So I guess I could say we kind of planned it out. Like, we wanted you guys to win.
The tactical int, I see.
Yeah. So and like your roster changed from the first time we played you, so like this will be like a fresh series. Like, we don't really, well, you guys haven't really played us and we haven't really played you like seriously, so no, this will be a nice fresh series, so it'll be fun.
Okay, so all according to Keikaku, apparently. You know, it's honestly like, this is going to be one of those matches that I feel like as calm and as quiet as you guys are, it's not going to be like that on the Rift. It's going to get very violent and very ridiculous and crazy, just because yeah, I feel like both of you are very scrappy teams. I love using that phrase because it's such a fun word to say. But with that, let's kind of, because I have Guilty and Jaffe both here, I want to hop over to Mythic and talk about Mythic just a little bit, because we are about to go into the playoff series for that. So if we look at the way the Mythic schedule is currently laid out, I believe we've got YOLO versus Eek and TDE versus... So let's just kind of, like, for that TDE game, Jaffe, what is it that you're kind of expecting out of that particular match? Because BBZ's been showcasing it fairly strong lately.
Yeah, I mean, the last game we played was actually against BBZ, so... you know, they had some roster changes, so I think that this is kind of like a weaker iteration, because like I had a bit of a harder time playing against Geico, and Shihu is a bit easier. Like, I had an easy time playing against him. He actually outplayed himself and lost the lane himself. Like, he just put the lane into my hands. I mean, the rest of the team did pretty well. So like, I feel like we might lose a game against them, maybe two, but we should be able to beat them at the end.
How about over to you, Guilty? How do you think the TDE BBZ matchup is going to go?
For me, I think TDE should have a relatively easy time. Similar to what Jaffe was saying, right? The roster changes right before playoffs is always rough. And I know from my experience, at least from hearing from my top laners in Mythic, is that Geico is relatively annoying to deal with, except for, I guess, the Mordekaiser Fiora matchup. But besides that, since they changed that, they do have that weaker top side. And, you know, 80 carries, no matter how well you play it, there's always a champion that can just press R and kill that person.
This is true. AD carry has always been kind of like one of those really scary positions where even slightly, and you're kind of boned.
Mhm.
Okay, so obviously we think it's going to be a TDE win. What about that Eek versus YOLO game?
For the Eek YOLO one, I have to go with Eek because I believe O'Reilly is actually going to be playing on it. And while I'm still on his payroll, I have to support him, even though he does tend to vote SLR as going to lose every time on his predictions. But at least through Friday, if you ask me Saturday, maybe Eek loses, but Friday is my last day on the payroll, so I'll say Eek equal in at 3-0.
What do you think, Jeff?
I think YOLO. Just because Eek went through that whole roster change kind of last minute. I feel like they only had like, was it one game together? If they didn't play off stage, I assume they didn't. So I feel like just playing together is a huge thing because YOLO has been playing as a team for a while and Eek hasn't. So it's already going to be rough for a best of 5 series. Just right then, like it's going to be hard for them to win.
Yeah, that'll definitely be kind of tricky. So something hard to deal with. Excuse me. But was there, so like I've been looking at the rosters a little bit, and I guess like one of the things that we were asked about, kind of going like just as Steph, like if there's any player that kind of stood out to you from the Mythic League. I don't know. Is there any particular player that stands out to you?
I mean, I would say Luru. Like, I mean, he started, but he was like Diamond 4, and then he got to Diamond 1. And also Pure Llama, just like rank itself, like they've been improving. Like I've played a couple games with Pure Llama and Solo Q, like we duoed a couple times, and I was actually there to where he got promoted to Diamond 4, and then like next time I see him, he's Diamond 2. So I mean, yeah, I mean those two stick out to me just because they've improved so much throughout like these couple of weeks.
I would say for me is Fang Over Fang, since he had to do off roll to jungle. Which jungle is the worst role to play for your sanity, because no matter what happens, it is your fault, win or lose. But I think despite only playing two, I think he played Rammus in the tiebreaker. So I think he's sticking with the non-mechanically skilled, just Trundle, Volibear, Rammus, just point click CC. He's found his way. But I think just the mental fortitude it's taking for him to keep it going. I'm sure he's going to have a really big breath of fresh air once the season's done.
All I'll say is if I had to play against players, I would definitely take the less mechanic champion so that I could focus more on the how do I not screw this up sort of mentality. Okay, so like with the way things are going, obviously it's going to be TD SLR in the grand finals. But do you think there's a possibility SLR will pick TDE for the semis? If you could pick a team, which team would you pick?
I don't have the decision with that, but SLR would go into YOLO, and then UB go with TDE so that we can see each other in the finals. I definitely had the most fun playing against TDE when I was playing mid for SLR. I felt like it wasn't as much of a stomp. I think SLR's just kind of rolled over everyone. But yeah, I would say we probably will pick YOLO and then let TDE go and fight UB.
Yeah, I agree what Guilty said. Like, I think that would be like the most fun for the competition. Like if TDE won BBZ, then we beat UB, then we play each other in the finals. Like I think that would be like I think that'd be really interesting to watch.
All right. Well, I really don't have much else other than I guess maybe like I know that the patch is gonna come out next week, or I think 12.21. I don't remember seeing anything too crazy on those patch notes, so I don't think it'll have that big of an impact on the Mythic series. But is there anything you've noticed over there that might have some impact on how those games play out?
I think since it's coming in as a minor patch, there's nothing too big that should shake up anything. I think for the most part, if teams aren't just mental booming, I think kind of what we predicted today should be how it plays out.
Yeah, I don't think the patch changes too much. It's pretty minor. It changes, just a few champs, but I don't think it's like, oh, these champs are OP to pick now. But
Right. It's not like we're gonna get to see Cassante because of the timing of that champion's release. That'll be interesting though to see if they are a big impact. Because it's like I know that it's another, like they were saying it was a tank that was what they were releasing next, but that does not look like a tank to me. That looks more like a bruiser. I mean, it has a big health bar, but it does a lot of damage.
That sounds like a tank to me.
You know, with the way League's been going, you're not entirely wrong. I do. It's an interesting balance dynamic where it's like you want tanks to be able to be solo laners, but at the same time, you don't want them to be able to just blow everything up instantaneously. But at the same time, they have to be able to stay alive, and ADCs need to be able to take down those health bars. Sometimes they just can't and get 1v1 by an Ornn.
I was gonna say Ornn is the assassin, mage, bruiser, yada yada. That champ is crazy. I hate playing against Ornns.
All right. Well, I got nothing else unless you guys have anything before we sign off.
My only thing is going to be, I want those listening that if SLR is down 2 games, please petition, because it means Llama's in and not me. Try to get me into that 3rd game so that I can maybe save it.
It's kind of a banger guilty. I don't know. How do I follow that? I don't have any trash. Look, man. I guess I'll just say, it's been kind of weird for me being on AAA, because for like most of the time I kind of just came in whenever Letters couldn't play, and then eventually Letters kind of just disappeared off the face of the earth, unfortunately. So it's been like a little weird trying to get like the scheduling. Sometimes like I'm not able to make stuff, or we have to move it around, but team's been really patient, and also you guys have been really patient, so I appreciate it, guys.
I also want to shout out a mid here, because I don't know if people know this, but he's actually a mid main, and he's played, I think, jungle and AD carry primarily for our team, and has done his best to let us win. And so that's been huge props for me, because I could not have done that.
I appreciate it.
I never would have guessed.
Crazy, I know.
All right. Well, with that, folks, want to say thank you all so much for listening, tuning in. We really appreciate it. This league wouldn't be nothing without its viewers, supporters, players. We all appreciate all the time you guys spend consuming the content we create, because we love making it. Like, that's the whole thing. We all make this stuff because it's fun, what we like to do. Also want to do a special thank you to our sponsors, Adobe Creative Cloud, Logitech Gaming, and the Academy of Art. All of your support has been greatly appreciated, and we hope things continue going on in the future. And with that, folks, we're going to go ahead, sign it off. Be sure to tune in to the Heroic Grand Finals, which will be kicking off here on it's this Friday, but what's the actual date? I believe the date is 10/27.
28.
28. Yeah.
Why do I have this listed as the game's tomorrow, Thursday? So be sure to tune in to the Heroic Grand Finals on Friday, 10/28. Will be really exciting, crazy matchup. I'm looking forward to it. And then be sure to check out the Mythic games, which will be kicking off the basically the playoff series. Will be going on, kicking off 10/31. So that'll be Halloween. I'm sure that a lot of folks will be rushing through those games. It'll probably be a quick 3-0, I think, just so that everyone can go out trick-or-treating. Unless we expect to see some crazy tricks coming out from YOLO or E. And with that, we will go ahead and sign off, and we will see you on the